video 2 of the Epic Bench work build. Alright, so now these have been drying for about overnight. So I'm going to take the clamps off and see what we're looking at here. Hopefully this all works and it'll be one piece again. Get these off. This one off. Alright, let's take a look. Again, silicone mats. It's great. It was stuck to it, but it comes right off. So we have a little bit of, oh, it's still wet right here in this big piece. We'll go ahead and kind of carve that off. It's a big chunk, so I'm not surprised it's not completely dry yet, but there we go. Get rid of that. And it's still kind of wet down on the bottom, so I'm going to flip this over and let it air dry a little bit more. It should be dry on the front, so I'm not afraid to put it on there. And we'll clean this up. Don't want to leave any wet glue on there, so you lay something else down and it sticks to the other side and makes a mess. So, looks really good. I think it's going to hold just fine until we get to the next phase at least. So I'm going to let this glue dry on this side for a little while, probably a couple hours. And then we'll get back to the layout and design of what the legs are going to look like for the bench top. All right, we got our pieces dried that we went over last time, so this is ready to cut. So I did just lay out my up-down lines and my cross lines there. I don't really have, my table saw is not really big enough to do it with my cross-cut sled on it. I don't have a fence, or I don't like cutting stuff like this with that. That's not big enough, so I'm going with the old Skill circular saw, and I'm using the Pittsburgh Harbor Freight square or cutting guide, but because these pieces are at angles, it's not going to clamp, so I'm going to flip it upside down, clamp it on the best I can, see what happens. So I think if I get this where I want it and I can clamp it, I don't know if this is going to work or not. And I'm going to clamp the other side, and then we'll do some measurements and see if we're square where we want it with the lines I've already drawn. And if this will actually hold, or if it'll, yeah, see, it wants to flip up. It's not really going to work, is it? Got to figure out a way to clamp it so it will stay. Maybe if I come this way. I don't really have any way to hold the piece down that way either, so it's going to be kind of sketchy here. Alright, then we're going to do this and set it up, make sure that we're exactly the same from the line. So the one issue is the bottom of this piece, when I got it, it's actually got a cup in it, so I'm just squaring off the bottom of this. But with no straighted parts, it's going to be a little tough. So I'm going to do this. Kind of make sure I'm square. Set it here, and I'm definitely off a little bit, but I don't know how I'm going to fix it yet. I think we'll try that. Now that this is right side up, I'm not putting it on the edge, so it's not flipping up, so that should be safe. That's tight to there. I'm just going to put this weight on this end. And we'll see if that will keep me from flipping up, and I think we're good. The only thing I didn't check yet is to make sure my blade to the cut line is correct. And that is really close. I'd probably rather be using the bigger end of the fence, so I could use this side on the project, but it just never seems to work. All right, we're going to plug this in and give her a rip, see what happens. I do have the blade depth set so that it'll be long enough to cut. And make sure nothing's in the way in case it fires up for some strange reason. Clear underneath. So I did a pretty good job of keeping it flat to the piece, but that didn't seem to match my line on this end, and I don't know why. So let me just take another run at it. All right, we were right on the line that time, so that went great. I think we are in good shape. I might have to plane this corner down here. I might have lifted the sod just a little bit and got out down here, but we're really close. That's something I can fix. Those things create a ton of dust. If I wasn't recording, I would probably have my dust collection system on, which I might turn on to see how loud that is on the recording. So that's a great cut. I'm happy with that. There's a lot more to cut. So I'm just going to keep going. And we will see where we end up. Yeah, I'll let this one this way. Our overall base is perfect with each other. And my uppercuts are really close. I'm happy with those. So we're just going to keep cutting. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 more cuts to go. All right, that cut pretty good. The other things I have to do is check the blade on that. I don't know that I have the correct wood cutting blade on there. It might actually be a metal cutting blade, which is what I used to use that saw for. Brush that off. Brush this off. Cutting with that thing makes a lot of dirt, a lot of sawdust. All right, now let's see how we're doing for matching heights. Moment of truth. Exactly what I thought. We're off by about that much, which is not exactly what I was expecting. I'm off by about, well, depending on how you angle it, about 1/4 of an inch. But I think I cut that first one just a little bit long. Yeah, so that's kind of what I had in mind. I'm going to measure the thickness on both ends of that bench and make sure they're the same so that one doesn't need to be a little bit taller. So I'm going to pretend that that was a on purpose thing. but I'm going to grab my pencil and draw a line on here. Now that they're both standing up together when they're square, this will be my new cut line. May or may not cut that right now. I think I might just wait a little bit before I trim that. Like I said, till I measure the thicknesses of that thing. So now we got to cut our straight lines, which not exciting. Could be cutting a lot of wood right here, and that saw was right up to the edge of what it could do. So this is going to be fun. Same process. Lay the guide on, get it lined up. This one I can actually probably clamp, because I got two more or less parallel edges here. Gotta love that smell. All right, so now we got one leg. This is gonna be cool. Got a little bit of cleaning up to do on this live edge because it's actually a broken live edge. We'll fix that later. Yeah, we still have to retrim this top. Want to make sure that bottom is actually good. Yeah, it is. Good as it's going to be. I'm going to retrim this top. Unfortunately, don't really want to, but let me measure that first. Just make sure that this is actually a solid thickness all the way through. This end is 2.5. It's gonna be close, but and over here we got a little bit less. Actually, we're looking at 2 1/2 3/8. So we're 1/8 of an inch off at the far end there. So I'm not going to cut that one yet. It's actually a 1/4 inch. Yeah, we're going to actually be okay. I'm going to leave that because that board does thin out a little bit, and I'm not going to try to make it a uniform perfect width. I'll just make this leg a tiny bit longer and you'll never know. And it kind of leaves that board original. So On to the next step. This